Hello, I'm Warren Burkholz with New American Funding. In this presentation, we're going to deal exclusively with what's going on with the values in the market and what effect that should have on your offer strategy. But moreover, is this market that we're in 2021 like the one we saw in 2006 and 7, where there was a crash in 8 and 9 and values fell precipitously? So are we facing that same kind of market today, and how should that affect our strategies? So in future presentations, we'll get back to talking about rates and what to watch for. But at this point in time, we want to deal with this sense of urgency that we see out there. And specifically, should you be making offers on property in this market where the inventory is so low? So let's talk about that inventory and where we're at today with that inventory and compare it to where we were in 2007. Where we're at today is we have about a million, a million point zero 0.07 houses in the inventory that could be purchased. Back in 2007, we had 3.7 million. Now the average over several decades has been about 2.5 million in inventory. So you can see, got two extreme situations here. But I'd like to take a minute and go into what's behind the reduction in inventory compared to 2007 and what we're seeing today. What's the underlying causation? Is it possible that new construction will keep up or actually increase the inventory level so that it gets back to what would be normal, like 2.5 million? Will foreclosures be coming from the recent COVID crisis and the forbearance that has been going on and so forth, looking at employment numbers, et cetera? Are we expecting to see potential foreclosures offsetting some of this inventory? I should say offsetting some of this inventory lack. So it turns out we don't need a crystal ball to understand what's behind this inventory situation. We have a chart which shows a comparison of annual completions of new home construction by developers compared to new household formations with this blue bar graph. So as you compare 2007 to today, you can see we have opposite conditions. We had in 2007 an excess of annual completions, and in 2007 at the same time household formations were actually declining through this period, and have kind of leveled off and started to increase today. So you can see household formations are going up. But on the other hand, the annual completions on developers had been pretty slow to start, pretty slow to regain momentum. In fact, they're just creeping up right now, kind of going horizontal here. So in this scenario, the new home construction has not begun to keep up with household formations. And what's behind household formations? Essentially the birth rate. The birth rate is what's behind that. And we have not been able to keep up with the increase in birth rate that we've seen to date, and it's continuing and going to get worse. So we would anticipate that the household formation situation will actually increase substantially, and therefore we're going to see a continuation of this gap. So to the points raised at the beginning of the presentation, we do expect to see valuations to continue to appreciate, maybe slightly less than we've seen in the last year, but at say an 8 to 10% clip. We also expect to see rates to trend upwards slightly. We could be looking at rates that are now in the high 2s to be in the low 3s, possibly some in the low 3s to the mid 3s, and some rates possibly in the low 4s. So keep an eye out on the rates. They are likely to creep up for a while before they stabilize or drop. And to the point, is this market like the one in 2006, 7, 8, 9? Only in that there were both extreme periods, albeit opposite extremes. And the other thing is, it's probably going to take 2 or 3 years for the trend to change, like it did back in 2007, 8, 9, and 10. It was a period of new normal, if you will. Well, this is the new normal now. We don't anticipate that'll change for the next few years unless the Fed radically changes its approach to rates. So having addressed the fact that there's no reason to wait to buy and lock now, we will be talking about rates again at the next presentation. And to the point, by the way, can we expect new construction to make up for the difference in inventory levels that we've seen over the last few years? It will have an effect. It will have an effect. We'll have to watch to see how much they can ramp up. But in terms of foreclosures, I think the expression that was used is a few drops of rain in the desert sand at high noon. It's going to have almost no effect on the appreciation levels, although there may be some foreclosures eventually. Much credit goes to MBS Highway, where a lot of this data came from. If you have any questions, please text me or email me. I'll be glad to delve into this more deeply. In the meantime, thank you for your attention, and thanks again to MBS Highway for all the data they supply us.